I'm sorry. Even though my diagnosis was years ago, I still struggle with lupus. Of course, it doesn't go away. It's forever. It never leaves you. I don't know if I can even remember the exact time when I was actually officially diagnosed. I had been fighting stuff for so long. It took forever to get an official diagnosis. Because I was in a lot of pain on and off for kind of a long time. I remember doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor that never did the right test. They never figured out what was going on. They misdiagnosed me with all kind of crap and gave me all kind of different things. But then one doctor who thought they were going to treat me for depression, and at the time I was also a smoker, so they were trying to help me quit smoking. They were like, "This is what you need." So I took it, and it was a sulfur drug, which was a big no-no for me. My body went totally insane. Totally insane. I thought at the time that I had something wrong with my blood. I thought I'd been bitten by a tick outside and had Lyme disease. I thought there was some kind of parasite in my blood because aches and pains would go and super swell up from, my fingers to my wrists to my elbows to my shoulders to the back of my neck to my legs to my ankle. I mean, it was I felt like my own body was faking me out. I didn't know what was going on. I can remember sitting there watching my stepdaughter at the time was having an ultrasound for her baby. And I was having a lupus reaction in my hands. And it felt like my hands were in a vice and somebody was cranking it. And the agony was so bad. I was sitting there watching the ultrasound and trying not to cry. And then got in the car to come home and just broke down in tears because I was in so much agony. Ibuprofen didn't fix it. Nothing was working. Nothing. I remember going to the emergency room once, and I was crying, so I grabbed a washcloth that had been sitting on the bar where I'd folded clothes and took it with me to wipe my face. And I was sitting in the emergency room. At the time, I was having severe pain in the back of my head, right by my brainstem, which was a little bit alarming. And it was shooting pains all the way around to my face, all the way in my jaw. I mean, I didn't know what was going on. I was freaking out. And when the pain would strike, it was like getting hit by lightning. And I remember sitting in the emergency room, waiting and waiting and waiting for them to get me back there in a room. And the pains were getting so bad that I wanted to just scream. But I had a little boy. There was a little boy that was in there for some reason or another. And he was sitting right beside me. And I didn't want to scare the little boy. So I remember biting down. I rolled the washcloth up. And I was biting down on it because the pain was so intense. And just tears streaming down my face. Trying to tolerate that pain. Got back in the emergency room finally. And they couldn't find out what was wrong with me. I sat there for like 5 hours. While they were trying to figure out what was wrong with me. They had no clue. Finally, I got frustrated. I got ticked off. And I got up and I left the hospital. During all those times, I think my family just thought I was crazy. I don't know if they had a clue that I was even really bad sick. Because in my face, I didn't look sick. But in my body, on the inside, I was in agony. Total agony. I finally landed at a doctor one day. I walked in, and my knee was so swollen that I barely walked. I can't even call it walking in. I hobbled in to this doctor with tears streaming down my face at the time because the pain was that bad. They got me back there, and they started doing blood work and different tests, and she was running tests on everything because I told her, I said, something is wrong with my blood. I said, something's going on. I said, this pain that's in my leg that's got my foot and my ankle all swollen and my knee all swollen jumps around all over my body. Well, I guess that gave her her first clue. So she started running tests. At the time, I had a C-reactive protein level of a full-grown man having a massive heart attack. That's how bad my pain was. It was at that level. She told me that. A day or so later, she called me back into the office and she let me know that I had lupus. Systemic lupus. I didn't even know what lupus was. I'd never heard of it before. And so I asked her, I said, well, what is it? She said, it's an autoimmune disease and it's chronic, I said, well, what do I need to do to get rid of it? She said, well, you can't get rid of it. She said, you'll have it forever. I said, am I going to die? And she said, well, not today, but eventually. So that let me know right there that this was something that was fixing to walk with me the rest of my days. I ended up at several other doctors after that, rheumatologist and all this other, and it was the lupus. They also talked about mixed connective tissue disease and Raynaud's and all this other stuff that was going on with me, that all of it was just kicking in and on fire all at the same time. They started putting me on all these medications, the Plaquenil, the steroids, and all this other stuff. And of course, I went from being an average sized person to, you know, the puffed up version of myself that I hadn't looked like since I was pregnant with my son back in the 80s. I started doing research as much as I could, figured out as much as I could about it, and started trying different things. And over the years, I've found ways to cope. I've found things that work for me. And I think each person that has lupus has to figure out their own path and find what works for them. And I had to find something that would work for me because I work 2 jobs, 2 different businesses. So I had to find something that would work. You get those times to where, you know, things get a little bit on track and you go into this remissive state for a while. And it's like a glorious morning. You know, things are good, you're feeling pretty good, and, you know, you still know that you need to tiptoe a little bit because you don't want to overdo it, because if you overdo it, you're going to get slammed. So you try and take it easy. And it's a nice little life for a little while. And then a stress trigger, a weather trigger, catching some kind of illness other than, you know, what you already have, catching viruses and things of that nature. Anything can fire it up. Anything can fire it up. Most everybody that has lupus doesn't look like they have lupus. We're all walking around in the stores and in the streets and, you know, on good days. And nobody can even tell that we have it. You can look at me right now and probably not even tell that I have lupus. A week ago, I had a little bit of a rash up here, and it's cleared up. It's cleared up. I'm just now coming out of what was a pretty bad flare from a lot of stress. But I'm starting to feel better, and I'm starting to get more confident in what I can do. The thing is, lupus is like the little hidden, I won't call it disease, but a syndrome. It's never going to go away. You're going to have it the rest of your life, and everybody hopes and prays that, you know, your organs stay unaffected, and, you know, you just deal with the massive flares that hit you every now and then. It's like having the flu a lot, all the time, like almost every day. And you either manage it or you don't. But nobody knows that you have it. And then there are some, you know, even family members that not only do they know that you have it and, you know, you don't look like you have it, so I guess they forget, or, you know, sometimes they just don't even care. You know, it's like, oh, you get over it. You know, it's not that bad. Okay? Do you have it? And the reason I'm making this video is not to get anybody's pity. I don't want anybody's pity. I do my own thing, and I take care of myself the best that I can. What I do want everybody to know is that May is Lupus Awareness Month. If everybody can just spread the word, it would be good. It would help those of us that have lupus as we continue to search for a cure. And it would also help spread awareness to the many people out there that do have lupus and don't even know that they have lupus. And there are a lot of those out there as well. If you feel ill, a lot. If you get into some chronic pain, a lot. If you get the rash on your nose and your face that's shaped like a butterfly, or you get, you know, these fancy, you know, rashes on your elbows and your body, mouth sores in your mouth and in your nose, massive headaches and fatigue, and sometimes feel like you can't get off the couch to even go to the bathroom, those kind of days, you might want to get tested. It's not going to be a fun thing. It's not a fun process, but it's better to know what you're dealing with if you do test positive for lupus. I hope that nobody has it. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I truly would not. But May is Lupus Awareness Month, and I'm hoping that this video will get out there and bring the attention to lupus, because a lot of us don't really say much until it's May. The rest of the year, we just kind of fight it. I know a lot of times people see me bouncing around outside and running around and doing things, and they're like, she's not sick. Maybe not that day, or maybe not as bad as I usually am, but I'm always sick. It wasn't even until after I was diagnosed with lupus, and I've been fighting it for a few years, that I found out other people right around me also had it. And they never said a word. Never said a word. Now I have a circle of friends that also fight the same battles that I fight every day. And there's some very strong people. Very strong people. So if you know somebody with lupus in May, why don't you give them a little reminder and let them know that you love them and support them. And to those of you in my group that also share in the same faith that I do, I love you and I support you. Lupus Awareness Month. There's still a lot to learn. But we're going to get through it. Every day. Hour by hour. Take care. Love y'all.